Welcome back. Today we're going to learn how to solve Rubik's Cubes that are 6x6, 7x7, and above. So, for our first step of the reduction method, we're just going to get one center. I like to start with white just because it's the easiest to find around the cube. So, if you have an odd numbered cube, make sure you start with the side that is the true white center, which is like the center of all of them. And if you have an even numbered, then it doesn't matter which side you start with. So, when you get into 6x6 and above, you might have been able to get away with just putting pieces in one by one on 4x4 or 5x5, but now we're going to have to start putting the pieces in bars. So what that means is we're going to build bars and then insert the bars until we've filled this entire center. So for our odd numbered cubes, we will start by building a bar around the true center. So here, give me a minute, this could be a little bit. Okay, so now I've gotten one bar. So if you had an even numbered cube, just start with one of the innermost rows and then have that row be your beginning white side. So you might think that you can just put any bar in at any time, but as you get to the later ones, it's easier if you start with the middle and then you move out. So next I will do either one of these bars, and then I'll move out, and then I'll move out. Depending on how many pieces your cube has, that depends on how many bars you have to make. Flash forward a few minutes and we've completed our first side. So next we will work on the opposite side. So you'll just look at the true center piece. If you have an even numbered cube, you'll just have to know which colors are opposite which. So white will always be opposite yellow. So next we will move all the yellow center pieces up here. Now as you can see, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because we're going to have to keep our white intact while we build the yellow side. So if you did 5x5 or 4x4, you'll recognize this. As you put pieces up, you'll have to clear a path so that you can bring your white center pieces back down. So you see right now, I'm working on building my middle layer, or middle bar. So I'm looking for pieces around. So here's a piece I want to put in. So I'll simply bring it up, then I'll clear a path up here of pieces that I don't really care about so that I can bring my white pieces back down. So I will just keep doing that until I've built my center bar, and then just like the other step, I will build my bars in one of these other layers, and then to insert them, I'll bring them up, clear a path, bring them back down. Flash forward a few more minutes, and we've built our last layer center. Now, all we have left is these last four centers. Now it should be a little bit easier because now we have two whole centers worth of pieces that we are not going to see. So we are going to put these on the left and right, and then we'll just be looking at these four and doing up and down cube turns. So pick any of the colors. I see that there's already some green pieces in my middle bar, so I'm going to start with green. And then you'll just go bar by bar, and then you'll just fill the center in. Building the fourth center is more of the same. It's just a series of putting pieces into where they need to go, clearing a path, and then bringing them back down to preserve this center. Now as we move to our last two centers, things get a little bit more complicated. This step is really what sets it apart from the 5x5 and 4x4 because we're actually going to need to learn an algorithm to solve these last two. You can try by just doing bars, but you'll eventually figure out that there's impossible scenarios where bars won't work because you'd only have a few pieces left, and the only ways to make bars will just mess up your centers. So I'm going to show you an algorithm that will switch individual pieces until you've switched all the pieces, and all the blues will be here and all the reds will be here. Once you get more advanced, you'll learn algorithms to switch multiple pieces at once so that this can be more efficient, but I'm just going to show you the basic algorithm to switch two pieces. So I'm going to look here for two pieces that I can swap. So I see here this one that is 3 from the side and 1 down, and then this one. This one's blue and this one's red, so I'm going to try to swap these two pieces. So to do this, I'm going to use an algorithm. This is the same algorithm as on the 3x3 beginners method. This might seem familiar, but instead of using outer layers, we're going to use slices. So first, you're going to move the one from the bottom and slice it into place. So all I've done is just move the slice into place. Now look at whether it's on the left or right side of this whole center. If it's on the middle, it doesn't matter. So since this is on the left, I'm going to turn it to the right. Now, keeping in mind where that piece is, I'm still following this one piece. I'm going to move that slice up. Now I'm just going to undo those moves. So since I moved clockwise the first time, I'm just going to move counterclockwise. Bring the slice down, move here, bring the slice down, move back. So it might be hard to tell because this is still in the early stages of switching, but we have successfully switched just these two pieces. So you're just going to continue switching pieces until you've switched all of them. Now that all 6 of our centers have been finished, it's time to move to edge pairing. Now, you might have methods of doing edge pairing from 5x5 and 4x4 that switch one piece at a time until all the edges have been paired up. Well, I'm going to show you a much more efficient way, just because once you get into larger cubes, edge pairing, while you only switch one piece at once, is just going to take so long. So, what you're going to do is you're going to use a building layer. So I like to keep the white and the yellow on top and bottom, and then use the rest of these layers to pair up pieces with each other. So right now I'm trying to get all of the green and yellow pieces onto this right here. Once I have an edge fully paired up, I'm just going to move it into one of the layers, and then I'm going to start building another one. I like to put my first 4 on one side, so that once you have all 4 of them, you won't ever have to look at the bottom again for your pieces, so then you can just only look around on the top and it's really easy. Now that I have 8 of my edges paired up, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom, it's time to fix our centers. So if you did this right, it should be as easy as just moving these back together, and now you have all 6 of your centers back together. So now all we have is 4 left, and these things only have the pieces from these 4 edges. So now this is going to look familiar from your 5x5 or 4x4. Now it's time to move into single piece switching. So you'll simply put a piece into where it's supposed to go, then switch that edge out with one of your broken edges, then you can slice back. Now what we did was put this piece in. Now we're just going to keep doing that for these last 4 edges until we have all of them paired up. So you see, if you had done that from the beginning, it would take so long to just switch one piece at a time, all the edges, so that's why I show you how to use that building layer. Now that we only have 2 edges left, there are going to be no other edges on the cube that we can use to swap out, so we can swap these one by one. So we're actually going to have to use 2 algorithms to swap the rest of these pieces. Now, these 2 algorithms are going to be the same as the parity algorithms on the 5x5. So it used to not matter which slice they were on because they would always be on this inner slice. But now that we have so many pieces, we're going to have to pay attention to which is which. So when I say R wide on the screen, you'll have to pay attention to which slice you're going to use because I'm just going to put the generic algorithm on. So I'm going to look at 2 pieces on a row that I'm going to want to switch. So here I see, 2 on the inner layer here that I'm going to switch. So notice how it's 3 layers in on both sides. So all of my R and L moves are going to be this 3rd layer in. So I'm going to start with R, U2, R, U2, F2, R, F2, L prime, U2, L, U2, R2. So you see what that did is it switched these 2 on the left side. So know that when you're doing this algorithm, you'll have to put the edges that you want to swap on the left side and then perform the algorithm using the slice that it's in. Now, switching pieces one by one is only going to get you so far. So here, as we can see, all of our pieces are oriented in the right slot. However, some of them are put in backwards. So we're going to use this algorithm to flip this. So this would look like this on the 5x5, and once again, it wouldn't matter which slice they were in on the 5x5 because there's only inner slices and then the middle slice. But now we're going to have to pay attention to that. So here, what we want to do is flip just these two pieces. So as we move these up, we're going to have to recognize that we're just using this third innermost layer. So the algorithm, the generic algorithm will just say R wide, but for this case, I'm going to use the third innermost layer. If you had other cases, maybe you'll use the outer or inner. It just depends. So the algorithm is going to be R2, B2, U2, L, U2, R prime, U2, R, U2, F2, R, F2, L prime, B2, R2. So you see what that did, since we moved the third layer in, it swapped just these third layer in. So here's just another case you can see. There's a ton of cases you can have where you just have flipped edges left. So here we actually want to move multiple at once. So here we want to flip these three. So I'll simply just do the same algorithm, but I'll be moving 3 slices at once instead of 1. And there we go. So that's how you get your last 2 edges. Now that we have all of our edges paired up, it's time to move on to the 3x3 stage. So we are just going to use these outermost layers and act as if this is one edge piece and this is one center piece, and we're just simply going to solve it exactly like a 3x3. Now, it doesn't matter what method you use as long as you can solve the 3x3. So if you're using an odd numbered cube, this is going to be it for instructions. You'll simply just solve it exactly like you normally would, and then that will be it. However, if you have an even numbered cube, there are still some more parity errors that you can run into. So I'm going to go over those parity errors right now. The first parity error that you can run into on even numbered cubes is when you're doing your last layer cross. So you'll notice that 3 of the edges are facing up except for this one. So we're actually going to use the same algorithm that we learned before. It's the algorithm that we use to flip 2, but instead we're just going to flip all of them. So even if this was a 6x6, 8x8, or so on, we're just going to move the entire half of the cube, and then we're just going to perform that exact same algorithm. I'm not going to go over it in detail because it's already featured in the video. The second parity that can happen on even numbered cubes is when you're on your PLL step. So what will happen is you'll have 2 edges that are flipped horizontally, and this is impossible on a 3x3, so you'll have to do a special algorithm to flip just these 2 edges. So just know that if you're working on a 6x6 or 8x8, that when I move one of these layers, you'll move all of the layers except for the outer one and the second half. So if this was 6 pieces across, I would count 1 in and move 2 of them, and then have the second half just stay the same. So here's the algorithm. R2, U2, R2, U wide 2. Also know that on a 6x6 or 8x8, that U wide 2 would be just 1/2 of the cube. So 6x6 would be moving 3 slices, 8x8 would be moving 4 slices. Alright, so to continue, R2, U wide 2, then just a U2 to finish. Well, that about does it. That's the easiest way to solve cubes that are 6x6, 7x7, and beyond. As you get into bigger cubes, it's really just these same steps, except you'll just be repeating them more often. You can view my page for a lot more Rubik's Cube tutorials, as well as more efficient ways. I hope this video helped you, and for the future...